Why? W-H-Y question mark. 3 letters, 1 punctuation mark, why? It's a small word, and it's one of the shortest sentences in the entire English language. And yet, it is the most important question you will ever ask in your entire life. The question why is a doorway that leads into a vast ocean of knowledge. And that knowledge will lead to more questions and even more knowledge. And all of it will constitute a beautiful cycle of curiosity and wonder. But perhaps you're having trouble seeing this ocean. Or perhaps you just don't want to swim in it. Well, allow me to be a sort of lighthouse. Allow me to shine on this ocean so that you can see that swimming in it can be one of the most gratifying things you will ever do in your entire life. So, let me use an example. Let me tell you about what I consider to be the most brilliant game ever invented by mankind. It is the most ingenious, thought-provoking game you will ever play. And it's played by children almost every single day. In fact, they're the ones who invented it. Now, I'm not entirely sure if it was given an official name, but I have come to call it the Y game. Now, I'm sure you've heard of it, but if by chance you haven't been tortured by it or have had the pleasure of torturing someone else with it, then allow me to explain what it is. The Y game is a game usually played by 2 people, typically children, and it starts with one person asking the other a very simple question. So let's say that little Tommy walks into his room and sees his older brother Billy sitting on his chair. Well, he can't do it, so he asks the question, well, why are you sitting in my chair? That's my chair. Well, it's just comfortable. Okay, but why? Well, it allows me to not use my legs. But why? Well, it has 4 legs of its own. Okay, but why? They keep the chair from falling. Why? That's how physics works. Why? I don't know. It just does. Leave me alone. Why? Is this annoying you? It annoys most people, but there is something that's quite fascinating about this game. Now, if you'll notice, most games tend to begin with a very small question and end with a very grand one. In our example, we began with, why are you sitting on that chair? And we ended with what was essentially, why are the laws of physics the way they are and not something else? We began with something so small as a chair and ended with something so grand as the laws of physics that govern our entire universe. That's magnificent. That's the beauty of the Y game. With it, you can explore such grand concepts in an instant. And it has to deal with the nature of the question why. Because the question why asks for origin, reason, cause. And if you try to find the cause of, let's say, object A, and you find out that it's object B, well, that's all well and good. But what caused object B? Well, you might do some more investigating, find out that it's object C, of course. But what caused object C? And as you continue playing this game, you keep playing the Y game, you realize that the question being asked expands rapidly because object C caused not only object B, but a host of other things as well. So then, what happens if you keep going? You keep going, you get to object D and E and F and so on, and as you continue, naturally, the questions expand at a rapid rate. So much so that it's not too long until you reach what I call the great big why question, which is simply this. Why are we here? What is the cause of everything? Now, ladies and gentlemen, we began with one question and one word. Why? We are now talking about the existence of God himself. I hope that you're starting to come to realize the importance of the question why. It's a powerful question. Through it, we receive not only knowledge, but meaning and purpose, who we are, how we ought to live. And yet, I find that we are no longer fond of this question. We are no longer a curious people. In our postmodern world, we simply just walk around not caring about much because we believe it doesn't really matter. We just go around just doing whatever it is we do. Everything's mundane. There doesn't seem to be any real purpose to anything. And when there's no purpose, the question why becomes obsolete because the question why deals with purpose. And when there is none, why bother? There's just no point. Well, if you ask me, that's a depressing way to live. In such a life, there is no creativity, there is no wonder, fascination, there's no brilliance. There's nothing there that can possibly sustain me. I cannot live the way that so many people are content with living. Even here at Gordon College, a place where we can study many, many things, we often view knowledge only as a means to an end rather than an end in and of itself. Oh, it gets us good grades, it gets us a degree, it'll get us a paycheck eventually one day, or so I hope. But is that really it? Are we really only here for a degree? Or are we here for something more? Could it be possible that instead of just being here for the material rewards, that we are also here for the spiritual ones? For the enlightenment that comes with the knowledge, so that we can become better people, God's people. The current state of affairs worries me. It's extremely troubling. But I do have hope. I have hope because I know that there is still a collective group of people asking questions. And it's the very children that we've just talked about. So, allow me to ask you another question. If you had to estimate how many questions you ask in a day, what would you say? 20, 30, 40? That's a lot, right? Makes sense. That's a reasonable estimate. What if I told you that the average preschooler asks 100 questions every single day? The average 9-year-old boy, he's going to ask you 144. The average 4-year-old girl, he's going to ask you 390. Yeah, good for you, women, right? That's great. These little children, whom we often neglect, let's be honest, are the ones who understand fully the power of the question why. They're the ones who are asking it. They're the ones who are seeking answers. I believe that instead of them following in our footsteps, we ought to follow in theirs. So, if a child comes up to you and starts playing the why game, don't get annoyed. Don't. Instead, use it as an opportunity to swim in that ocean of knowledge, explore concepts together. Students, don't study just for a grade. Do it for something more, for the wisdom that you will receive, the enlightenment that will come. But if you're still unconvinced, if you still think it's not worth it, then allow me to ask you just one more question. Because there is a second thing that fascinates me about the why game. Because you see, it usually ends with something along the lines of, I don't know, it simply is what it is. That always fascinated me. Because the why game, it can be seen as tracing the origins of everything. So you go through it, you get to the last origin, and you find out it simply is what it is. The last point. If that origin was a person, if that origin could talk, it would probably say, I am who I am. Which is exactly what God said to Moses in Exodus 3:14. Why is that?